there's really nothing like taking something blank and then like having an idea and then being able to execute it and just like put it out into the world. There's just like something very magical about it.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Jesse Nyberg podcast. Today I'm here with Katrina, talented designer and illustrator. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty slow week for me so far. What have you kind of been up to?
Me too. I'm planning an in-person activation for a brand, which is like my very first kind of time doing this. So it's interesting, but it's pretty cool. And I'm designing book covers for fun right now because I'm really trying to like break into the publishing industry. I really want to design a book cover. So it's been a fun week.
Yeah, I've seen you talk about that a little bit, like saying you want to do that. And it's funny because I think that it's like a cool niche, and I don't know a lot of people that are involved in it. So I've never even talked to anyone about that. But it's funny how everyone kind of has this like one thing they really want to do, but a lot of people have a different opinion of like what's their most favorite thing they want to do. Like some people want to do album art so bad, or like design for this kind of brand, or design a book cover, and it's hard to figure out sometimes like the steps when you've never done that specific like niche or whatever.
Yeah, I'm like literally just shooting my shot, like sliding into authors' DMs of books that I really like. It's been really interesting because I've gotten some helpful replies so far, and like people are just really nice in general. So it's like cool to talk to new people.
Yeah, I feel like you're like specifically some of the more like flat illustration you do could cater well to like, you know, millennial, maybe like what is it called, young YA or whatever,
YA,
like type stuff.
That's the goal. Yeah.
For sure. What was it? I think I was reading it on either your website, or I listened to a little bit of the talk you did with the Adobe thing where you were like talking about your work and stuff, but you said that you used to study sustainability and stuff in college. And what was that kind of experience like?
Yeah, I picked sustainable environmental design because it was like the only major that had the name design in it, basically, because Berkeley has no design program whatsoever. Yeah. And that was like the closest I could get. And I really used to want to be like an architect when I was little. And I was like, kind of like meshes the two together. It was not like what I would have expected. It was a little bit of like landscape architecture, but it was also some drawing and like other skills that I was able to use, which was great. But like one week I'd be like watercoloring in the forest with like a landscape drawing class. But then the next I would also be trying to like calculating the rate at which like the sun hits a building. And so it's just like, it was like a really interesting experience. I think I learned to appreciate learning different things, even though I knew that was not what I wanted to do in the end. But yeah, it's given me kind of like a good perspective. And I also really just love taking on like clients in terms of branding projects where they have sustainability in mind and it's one of their missions.
Yeah. And I feel like you make a good point about, even if, you know, that was a lot more maybe math or like science stuff than you would have liked in terms of being a designer. I even found when I was in school, because I went to school in a design major, but it wasn't like a design school, right? So I still did random courses about like GE, so like about, you know, science or religion and all this like random stuff. And they don't necessarily translate to like being a better designer, but it did help me be like, I think, a more rounded person, like just learning all this random stuff.
Exactly.
And if anything, it solidifies your interest in the other thing you actually like even more, because you're like, I know that stuff's boring, so I'm going to stick to this kind of shit.
Yeah, I think it really helped me prioritize my time, because I would have to like be really diligent about how I spent it. I'd be like, okay, I can dedicate like this time for whatever homework and projects and this time for things I like actually want to do. So I think it taught me time management, which I think is really important in this job. Yeah, especially freelancing. I mean, everyone has a different kind of system, I feel like, but what have you found kind of works for you in like freelancing and time management stuff? I try not to take on more than like 2 to 3 projects a month, because I know like there have been months where I'm taking on like 4 or 5, and I feel like the timelines, like projects tend to go over, I don't know if it's just me, but projects always go like over time, like estimated all the time. And so it like blends into other projects, then I get really stressed out, and I've just kind of learned to kind of set hard deadlines and like say no to projects that are like, that I know are going to take a long time. And I don't know, I think the work-life balance thing has become really important to me, especially just recently, just because I feel like we're at home all the time and it's so easy to constantly be working, but I need to set that like hard timeline of like, okay, I don't have to do this. I can just like go read my book or like go for a run or something.
Right. Yeah, I found too with client stuff, even if it goes out, a lot of times for me, when stuff goes longer, it's annoying because it's stuff that I can't like, fix. Like they're waiting for some kind of thing to tell me what to do next. And it's like, but I want to start this other project. So sometimes I'll tell them like, okay, like you guys took 2 weeks to get back to me about this thing. So you're gonna have to wait another like week because I need to finish this other thing I'm doing now. Because you can't just let people make you wait for like ever, you know? It's kind of, it gets like that sometimes, I've noticed.
Yeah. And I think one important thing I've learned is just like picking clients that you want to work with, who like understand and respect your time. That's such a big one, because I've definitely had a few clients that don't do that, and it's just like it makes the whole process a lot less fun. So just picking people that you vibe with is probably like the number one thing that I've learned is like the most important thing in this industry. For
sure. And I feel like I'm lucky enough now in my position in my career, or like I guess to have this like privilege where if I'd really like, it has to be a lot of money or something for me to do something that I don't like at all, you know, because that usually turns out bad because you're not as like passionate about it or you're not as into it. And like, it's always those people that want to give you like the revisions and shit. So like there's so much resentment, I feel like, built in from like the front that it's a recipe for disaster. So if it's something like really, as long as it's not like morally opposing to what I think, if it's just boring, I'm like, it has to be pretty good because I really don't want to do this. It sounds not that fun at all.
Yeah, I've definitely gotten good at kind of like vibe checking clients and being like, okay, I think I'll have fun with this project.
Yeah. What, the design stuff you kind of got into then, I think I saw you said at some kind of club, right? At Berkeley. And then, what kind of got you to like see that and actually, you know, I saw flyers all the time and stuff and like actually pursue it? And then also what kind of kept your interest, I guess, and kind of sparked that like passion or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I was always just exposed to art as like a little kid. I think my mom used to take me to a bunch of like coloring workshops or like art lessons and stuff. And so that always kind of stuck with me. I always loved like arts and crafts and stuff. And then when I went to college and I took that like flyer, I was like, oh, I can learn how to make something like this. And I feel like I've always loved like sketching, always like making little weird things. And I think the idea of like being able to just like take a blank canvas and then create like whatever you want out of it and have it look really cool, like that was something that was really appealing to me. So I like applied to that class and I got in, and like the first lesson I was pretty much locked in. I was like, this is like the coolest thing I've ever done. And I think like the feeling I got was just like, I don't know how to describe it, but I think it's kind of stayed with me throughout like this entire time, the last like 5 years or so since I've started designing. And it's just like, there's really nothing like taking something blank and then like having an idea and then being able to execute it and just like put it out into the world. There's just like something very magical about it. Yeah.
And I feel like since you guys were all kind of doing this thing that wasn't offered, like you kind of had to make this like club or classes on your own, you guys probably were a lot more passionate about it because it wasn't something you were like required to do. It was like voluntary.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one upside of going to a school that didn't offer a design major. It's like we actually have an incredibly strong like student-led design culture there, which is really cool because everyone is just like super passionate about it, really driven because no one else is offering it to them. So they're just like finding a way to do it themselves, and it's very scrappy and like, yeah. Some people when we were in school, like they never got out of the idea of like high school where they were just kind of like fucking off. And my mentality was like, you're like, no one's making you do this and you're paying. So like,
they don't care if you don't try, you know, the professors aren't gonna like care that you didn't get the most out of this like thing that you're trying to do, you know?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think going into college, I definitely had that a different high school mentality where it was like, oh, I have to get perfect grades, blah blah blah, just because I think I came from a high school with that culture, and then I think the pandemic really shifted everything because it gave me the option of just like pass, no passing every class. I wasn't having to like work for an A or anything. And so I felt a lot of the pressure taken off. And I also like realized towards like my junior year, which was right when the pandemic hit, it was like, why am I working so hard for these classes that I clearly like don't want to pursue as a career? Like I don't want to spend the rest of my life like calculating the angle of the sun and stuff. So like, why am I busting my ass to get an A in this class when it's like I could be working on a brand and like creating conceptual posters and doing things that I really enjoy?
Yeah, for sure. And you do a lot of that kind of like passion, personal project stuff. And I like to think I do that too, because it's, I think, a really helpful thing for people to just do, especially when they're like dried up in client work or whatever. But
yeah,
how do you think, like, would you kind of suggest that to all younger designers and stuff?
definitely. I think it's just like you get such a different feeling between like doing client work and doing paid work versus doing work for yourself. It's like completely different. And I used to think, oh, as long as I'm like designing something, I'll be happy. But like if I was just only doing client work like 24/7, then I just don't think I think I would be burnt out a lot more. And I think like I would be just unhappy. But like being able to work on something you're genuinely passionate about, I think it's just like it shines through that much easier in your projects. Like when you're really, really like into something, it'll show through and people will see that. Like for instance, I made a magazine, like just kind of celebrating the end of college and like dedicated it to all my friends and stuff. And I think that passion really, really showed in that. And I think a lot of people resonated with it because they were like, oh, you inspired me to make a magazine of my friends too. And it's just like projects like that really keep you going. And it's great to have like client work and if you're a designer at an agency or whatever, it's great to keep doing that. But I think designers really need that side project that they're really passionate about to like keep them up at night and like just excited about design, I guess.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a lot closer to like, you know, art in a sense where you're just creating stuff like for yourself, even if, or for some kind of brief that you also just made up. But like, I found that sometimes some of my best stuff comes out of that personal stuff because
exactly,
I don't know, like no one's making you do it. Like you do it at your, and like I go hard on it, but like you do it at your own kind of pace and like feeling. And sometimes I'm like, damn, I almost think this turns out better. I want to figure out how I can translate this feeling into like all the real life projects I do, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely feel that too. But it's just like, I think a lot of people give personal projects kind of like a bad rap because they're like, oh, it's a concept. Like you didn't actually do it. It's not real life work. So you shouldn't apply to places with like only personal projects. And it's just like, I don't know. I think personal projects can turn out really beautiful. And it's like, it doesn't completely matter if it's not real because it's just like if the work speaks for itself, then you should be able to apply with it. I mean, I get the importance of like real life projects as well because it shows that you worked with people and you have deadlines and like you executed on something that exists. But I think there's importance in personal projects too.
Right. I feel like it's very double-sided. Like I could see the side of if you don't have any real stuff, it's harder to convince an employer or a client that you can actually do the stuff that isn't the designing, like handling all the project. But on the other hand, if you don't have the personal stuff and like these cool things that you're making up on your own, I would almost feel like you need someone to tell you what to do, almost like you're not able to come up with these like little worlds in your own mind. And I think there's a good balance of having both. And I've noticed at jobs I've either gotten or just interviewed at, a lot of times, you know how sometimes like at interviews, they'll look through like with your portfolio and stuff and talk to you about stuff. A lot of times they always talk to me about like just the shit that I'm posting on like social media and stuff.
Yeah.
So there's something to say to doing that stuff, you know?
Yeah, like every time I've interviewed for a job, they always kind of have me walk them through like my favorite project, and it's always like normally a personal project, and they're always like, oh yeah, like I saw that when you were applying, it really stood out to me. And so like every time I get the chance, I always just speak about a personal project.
Yeah, that's good. I know you claim to kind of work or specialize with like Gen Z and millennial type branding and DTC stuff. Did that like specialty or trend that of your work kind of happen organically, or did you set up your practice like with the goal of focusing on that?
I think I was really into branding because I took a student-led, again, branding class my sophomore year of college. And I think that really just like opened the door for me to start building out these brands on my own, completely conceptual. And so I started Brandtober, which is kind of like Inktober, where it's like you create a brand a day. And that gained a lot of traction on Instagram. And that led me to my first real life client, which was Hyper, which was awesome. I still work for them today. And I don't know, she like completely trusted me with her rebrand. She was like, yeah, we're going to be going into Sephora. And I'd like never done any of that before. So really opened the door there. And I think I had a really good experience branding that. And so I was like, it's fun to do conceptually. It's also fun to do in real life. And then I guess I just kept getting inquiries just about brand design because I kept making like brands and showing them on Instagram.
Right.
So now I just kind of, I guess I'm a brand designer. But I think lately I'm shifting more towards like just cool projects in general. I don't really want to like put myself in a hole where it's like all I do is brand things, because I feel like you can get tired of it, and it's just good to take on different projects to like I don't know, keep you energized and excited.
I also like to have like different worlds, and like maybe everyone doesn't see everything that they know I can do. For example, a lot of the stuff that I do for actual clients is logo design and branding, and maybe would look foreign to what you'd expect from what I would do when you see like just the stuff I post online that's like for fun and posters and stuff. But what's my point? Oh, I like to do like different types of things. That way, like you don't want to just know how to do branding or just know how to do this or just know how to do that. I feel like I would, in theory, like to be classified more as just like, you know, overall like art direction. And that way I can kind of do all these things, because I found the reason I like freelancing is you get to work with so many different people. And I also like to do so much different stuff within those different types of people, because it keeps it kind of fresh and, like you said, not getting bored of it or whatever.
Yeah, I think I don't know, I think if I were to give anyone advice just starting out in the design industry, like if they have the opportunity, I would suggest interning at like a studio or an agency, just because you get to see like so many different roles within a design place, and it's like you get to interact with so many people and you get to take on so many different projects versus going in-house like and then staying there for a really long time. You're kind of just doing the same job over and over again, which is cool because stability is nice. But I think if you have the opportunity, just taking on many different projects at once and like working with many different people is kind of the way to do it. Yeah.
What was it like at Herman Shear when you worked there?
It was great. I mean, I was like only an intern for like 4 months because it was like a summer internship, and then it turned into kind of like a fall internship. But they were pretty small when I started with them. They were like 10 people or so. And I knew them because my friend got her post-grad job there. And so it was really great. I think working at a small studio is really cool because you really get to like have an impact on like what you're making. Because like it's like every person counts. You need them to be in it like at all times. And I think they did a great job because at the beginning they sat me down and they were like, what do you want out of this internship? And it's really good to like, you know what you want. And I said, just like throw everything at me. I want to learn everything I possibly can. So they gave me like web design, social, branding, just like a little bit of everything. And it really just helped build kind of like a foundational skill set for me to go off and like start freelancing with.
Yeah, John's dope too. They have a lot of cool people working over there. I have a funny like kind of relationship with him because I always wanted to work there when I first moved to LA when I was like super fresh, and probably around the same experience as when you interned there. And I applied before, I never got like a job or interview or whatever. Then next year I had an interview with them and it didn't work out. And then the third year they were asking me to like, if I want to work on this freelance project with them, just because I was doing my own stuff and forgot about them. And that project I ended up not working on because I was busy and stuff. But it's funny to see how like, oh, I really want to work with this place, but it didn't work out. And I just did my own thing. And then it almost like the tables almost turned around where they were like, oh, you're still doing cool shit over there. So like, do you want to help us with this? And I think it was a good lesson where like, you're going to apply to a lot of shit or work with a lot of clients and shit's not going to always work out, but you got to just keep it moving, you know, and get to the next thing.
Yeah, that's a really good lesson.
What has been your favorite client to work with, like in just your freelance practice so far?
I think one of my favorites would have to be Halia, which is like the period care brand. They're based in the Philippines, and when they reached out to me, I was really excited just because I was born in the Philippines. I lived there for 6 years, like my entire childhood was there. And so it's just kind of like a full circle moment for me to be like, wow, it's awesome. Like I get to design like a brand and it's going to be in the Philippines. And recently they launched in like kind of like, I guess the Philippine version of Costco there. So like they're on shelves there too. And it's just really cool to like keep up with them on Instagram and see how much they've grown. And I think just being able to take on a brand with missions that really align with mine, like they're sustainable, they're like materials are biodegradable, and it's like period care and kind of like taking off the taboo subject around periods was really cool.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the clients you've worked with have been really cool because they've both like been fulfilling projects creatively, but they've also been able to like, you're not compromising any of your opinions of like the world or whatever, or like your kind of morals and stuff.
Yeah, I think it would be very hard for me to take on a project where it's like, I don't believe in this mission or like it goes against my beliefs. Yeah, I don't think I could ever say yes to that.
Yeah, the farthest I go is I'll work with big companies because like, you know,
get the bag.
And I hate big companies, but it's like there's a world where you can not believe in like extreme capitalism and like hate these corporations and also take money from them, you know? So it's like, you have to figure out, but if it's something where it's like the actual, whatever their like mission statement is, right, is something I don't agree with, there's no way I would work with someone that's promoting something like, you know, I don't know, racist or like something just very bad, because no amount of money like can pay for that. Like, I guess embarrassment I would feel to be like, I did this, you know?
Yeah.
What is your kind of process like these days when you work on a branding project, like from kind of start to finish?
Yeah, I feel like I've kind of adopted just a general branding practice that I've seen around, where it's just like, you start off with a kickoff or a discovery call with a client, and you just kind of ask like, oh, what are your general goals here? Like, what's your primary demographic? Who are we targeting? What emotions are we trying to evoke? Like, why do you even want to have a brand or a rebrand, basically, just so that we're all on the same page. And then from there, I go on and I create basically like 2 different art direction styles of mood boards that kind of go through like what I'm envisioning for the colors and the type and like the logo and everything. And then I present those 2 to them. And then they kind of say, oh, I love like the mood board of direction 1, or like I love the colors of direction 1, but the type of direction 2. And we kind of just like go from there and get on the same page in terms of like what they're expecting it to look visually. And so once they lean in one direction or the other, I go on and I create 2 different brand identities just based off of that one direction or mood board that we agreed on. Yeah. And then from there, it's just like, you got to iterate, and then hopefully we just get to a place where we're both happy.
Do you, when you're presenting, like, let's say, you know, 2 or 3, like identity concepts for them to either choose from or like choose to then later revise, are you presenting the entire, like already in theory, like finished concept, or are you presenting like a piece of it first and then figuring out which one they like and then expanding on it further?
I'm pretty much just presenting like an entire brand to them, and then like depending on how much they like it, it stays the same or it like changes a lot. But yeah, I think it just helps me completely visualize like a full completed brand, and presenting that just makes sense to me.
Right. Because I've tried it multiple ways. I've tried a strategy where, let's say it's from nothing, they don't have anything to all the way branding, where I've tried where I start the first phase of the project where we do the, get on align with like what we need to do and everything. And then I'll present logo ideas, right? So 3 logo concepts. And then from there, whichever one we finalize, I'll then later, like I'll finish out the entire branding. Because I don't want to do all the accessory stuff if I'm not even going to choose that option, But then I've found that part usually works, but doing it the way you're saying, I've also done. And that way works a little bit better sometimes because they can see the logo in more like context.
Yeah, see the vision.
Like, yeah, because sometimes if you show it without branding, it can maybe be, let's say it's like just a typographic like word mark. It can maybe be like underwhelming, right? And they don't see the vision because they're just like, that just looks like a font or something.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas like, so I feel like sometimes when you're just presenting it logo wise, you almost have to over complicate the actual logo to sell it.
Exactly.
So I don't know. It depends for me, it depends on the client and like what they need. Cause sometimes I don't want to build out the whole brand if they're just going to be like, well, we like that idea more anyway,
That's fair. I don't know. I think I just get a lot of fun out of building brands. So I guess I just don't mind building out the two and just presenting it. And usually what happens is they kind of like a mixture of both. So it's just kind of good to have these options for them so they can like fully see what I'm trying to achieve.
Yeah. I've had good outcomes come from like them liking a mixture, and then sometimes like they want you to do this weird like Frankenstein of like these two completely contrasting ideas, and then it gets a little bit weird,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
The stuff you did with Hyper though was really cool. And are you basically just running like their creative now for the most part?
Yeah. I'm actually like just considered just like a full-time employee with them as well. So I'm their creative lead. What's great is just she lets me freelance at the same time. I just technically have like a non-compete with other skincare brands. So I just take on other things that aren't in that space. But it's really cool because we're still like a pretty small company. And so everything we do kind of just like goes through me, and I get to decide on like the merch and like the next photo shoot idea and stuff like that.
Are you creating like smaller day-to-day stuff for them? Like social assets or like things like that?
Yeah, I am. But I also recently got my first intern, which is really exciting. It has been really great. So it's like good to be able to like pass on the torch and like teach her what I know and just like have her handle day-to-day things as well. Is that an intern within that company or for you as a no, it's
person?
Within that company. Yeah.
I've always wanted like a assistant or an intern, but I feel like there's times where I could warrant it, and then there's like other times in the year where they wouldn't be having anything to do. So it's kind of a weird balance.
Yeah. Do you think you'd ever want to have like an up and running like studio with employees?
I think it'd be cool, but I would almost rather do it where it's like 2, 3, 4 people that are all on like a pretty even level and specialize in different stuff, and we all kind of like Avengers, type like situation. I don't know if I'd do well in managing a lot of people below me, but I'd be down to collaborate with other like people I feel are on the same page as me.
Yeah, I think like I used to really want to like have my own agency and like be able to run things, but then I realized the higher up you go, the more managerial it gets, and like I feel like the less design you get to do. And so now I'm just like pivoting, and I'm like, I think it's fine if I'm just a one-person studio.
Right. I feel like there's a lot of pros and cons, because with the studio or the agency life, you get to do the big stuff that you see on like the articles and things. You're like, oh my God, they, did this thing for Nike or whatever, but you're a smaller portion of that big thing. Whereas like when you're by yourself or working on a project as a freelancer, I feel like even if the grand scope is smaller, you get to have more of an impact on the actual like project.
Yeah, exactly. And I think maybe it's just because I'm still, I guess, new to design, or like it's been like 5 years, but I just really like being able to kind of like have control of every little thing that I put out versus like, I don't know, just the idea of letting someone else do it for me makes me kind of sad. So,
Yeah. They say like when you hire somebody too, it takes a while. Like for a while, you're doing more work having them help you because you have to teach them how to help you. And then it ends up working out. But that's why people don't like people that come and go a lot, because they never get to get the reward of hiring them, you know, because it's just like training and then training another person and so on.
Yeah. So
I think it'd be cool though. But how do you delegate your time between hyper, freelance practice, and then you do a lot of like, I guess like content creation or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, I guess I do. I guess the kind of like work balance kind of ebbs and flows just depending on what Hyper's doing. Like if we're gearing up to launch a new product, I'm pretty busy with them, so I kind of like put other things on the back burner. But I've just found that you're able to achieve a lot in a day as long as you just like stay focused. So it hasn't really been too big of a problem for me yet. And I think just like having the flexibility of like being able to work at home, not having to commute anywhere, has been like a really big time saver as well. So it's just like, I don't know, you get a lot done. And I feel like, I don't know if this is bad or not, but sometimes when I sit down to like create content or whatever, I don't really view it as work. I just view it as like downtime for myself. And maybe I'll like put a show on in the background and just like draw. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, but I guess that does really blur the lines between like work-life balance, which is also kind of a problem, but I don't know. It hasn't been too bad. So
yeah, that stuff is so like nuanced. I've spoke about it before, so graphic design is my career, and graphic design is also my favorite hobby of mine. Yeah. So I just like, it's like, oh, I need to do all this work on this screen, and now that I'm done, I'm just going to go to this other screen and do the thing I want to do. But in a sense, it's all like the same thing, but it's different. So it's harder to, if you grouped it all together, you could say I work like 10, 12 hours a lot of times, you know, but if you separate it, I only work for like 6 hours, and then the rest is fun or whatever you want to call it.
Exactly. And I've recently just started this new rule, which I think has helped a lot. And it's basically like every weekend I just completely shut off from like my computer, and I just like don't do too much design work at all. I mean, it's only been like 2 weekends of me putting this into practice, but I've found that like on Monday when I return back and like do everything, I just feel so renewed, and like it just makes me feel so much better. So I think I'm gonna try like sticking with this for a while.
Right. I read this book recently. It's called Rest. I highly recommend it for people that struggle with like, you know, turning off or disconnecting from their work, because the general like idea behind it is that rest isn't just the absence of work or like downtime that you have when you're not working. It's something you need to deliberately like schedule and pursue, because rest, like you need that. And then you need to work too, because like one of my favorite quotes was a day of hard work creates rest that later can be enjoyed without guilt. You know, because when you sit around doing nothing all day, you feel bad about yourself. But when you work hard, then you can't wait to sit around and just chill or whatever.
Yeah. And I just feel like, I don't know, people always feel bad about like taking breaks, but I think I've just kind of shifted my mindset in the sense that like breaks are very productive, because then it prevents burnout, and it's like just really necessary for your health in general.
Yeah. And sometimes I'll struggle on something that maybe conceptually, where I'm trying to figure out like where I want to go with either a YouTube video or a design project or a freelance project. And I just like to go for like walks and stuff, like sometimes in the middle of the day, or even just like do something that is so easy that you just turn your mind off, like laundry or the dishes or whatever. And that's sometimes when you could waste all that time like stressing about it, but sometimes you figure out the thing right when you stop, because you already put all that work into it, and then your like subconscious mind like figures it out for you. It's like one of those like, light bulb like moments or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. I've also just found like I get a lot of like my best ideas like just taking showers, just like not doing anything that requires hard work. So yeah, I just got to take more breaks.
The only part that sucks about that is when it's like an inconvenient, like you need to be in a position where you can like remember it, So like,
oh yeah,
if it's, sometimes I'll have an idea and I'm like in bed, I'm like, fuck, I got to get up and write this down, Or cause I like to put my phone and stuff in a different room. Cause I used to get up and like be on my phone in the morning for like an hour, waste time.
Oh yeah.
So I leave it in the office and I'll be like, it's like 2 a.m. I'll wake up and I'm like, damn it. And I go over to the office and write like, I'll just write like green or whatever like the idea was for the thing.
I've started just writing down ideas in like a notebook just because like I feel like I always have a notebook next to me or just around me. And so like being able to jot that down has been really helpful. So I'll just have a random page of just like ideas for Instagram, I guess.
I always carry around these like field notes or whatever, some kind of version of this moleskin or whatever. I found that writing it down, like all those high school teachers or college professors that don't like you to take notes on your laptop, I think they're onto something because
definitely.
I have 100%. More retention when I write it with my hand, I think.
Yeah, I could never take notes on a lot. Like I've always written all of my notes like just on paper, and then like when I study, I used to just like have like 10 highlighters and I would just like highlight pretty much every line and just be burned into my like mind.
Yeah, for sure. Do you enjoy like so you work with Hyper, right? And you do a lot of that's like more where we were saying in-house, and you're working solely on like this one brand and expanding on it. And then you also have your freelance practice and like content stuff, which is a lot more varied. Do you enjoy focusing more on the one thing and expanding it, or like starting something new every like month or whatever?
Ooh, I can't say that I prefer one over the other just because I think with Hyper, it's just like so unique. Like I really created it from end to end, like the rebrand. And so like everything I'm doing is still really exciting for me because it's like I set this foundation and now I get to build on it and like see how much I can push the brand guidelines that I set for myself first, and just like seeing it grow into this like little baby and it's out in the world and like people use the products and stuff has been like surreal to me. And so that has been like a really rewarding experience, and being able to like work on in a team where people like all equally care about this product and really believe in it has just been like, I think another big thing I've learned in terms of just like post-grad lessons is just like the people you work with really makes a job versus just like, the actual job itself. Like it's so important to be able to like your coworkers and like vibe with them. And I think I used to be more of like a lone wolf in that sense, where it's just like, I'll just do everything myself. Like I don't really need like a relationship with whatever my boss or whatever. But I think like having that now, I just don't think I could ever go back to being a lone wolf. Yeah.
And when you're a freelancer, you gotta like yourself, because you're your only employee sitting around all day. I found with the pandemic, I got a lot more, maybe not extroverted in real life, but like engaging with mutuals or whatever online because I didn't get that randomness of talking to people anymore out in the world. Like when it was peak like lockdown or whatever, I was trying to meet more people online because that was the only kind of thing you could do for a while,
Yeah. I mean, when did you start like your YouTube channel? And like I feel like you've been you do a lot too. Like you do freelance and you have like YouTube videos. You're like pumping out content every single day.
I know. I that's why I try to ask, because like it's hard for me to formulate like a solid answer for someone when they ask me how I do it all, because I just do it all. I don't know, like I just like it. So it's hard to get burned out when you see something actually like improving and moving over time. It's a lot more fulfilling. I found that I get burnt out when something gets stagnant and I'm working on it for no reason type of thing. But what'd you ask me? I don't even remember what else.
I don't even remember what I asked you.
Yeah. When did I start the stuff?
Yeah.
Pretty much like COVID, like first, like let's all stay home.
Nice.
Kind of obvious answer for a lot of people's kind of side thing. But not just YouTube, like that was always something I wanted to do. And I've started that then, but I also just started actually trying on like the other social media apps. Like I used to just post my work like here and there and then wonder like why I didn't have any followers and like why I wasn't getting clients. And then I kind of developed out more of like a strategy, even if the strategy was loose and like post design work this many days or post this thing or try these reels or TikTok or whatever. And, you know, I like to try everything and then I realize what I like and then I kind of just double down on those little sections. But I think you could sit around and, you know, not like to do this like content shit, but I think unless you're in like a super elite already situation, it's kind of inevitable and you need it just to get attention of other people sometimes.
Yeah. Do you ever just like, I don't know, feel like Instagram and like trying to get more followers has taken the fun out of like designing? Because sometimes I feel that and I get sad because I'm like, I just want to design this, but I feel like I need to like film the process and like set up my tripod and like film a time lapse of me designing, and then I like get anxious because I'm like, oh god, everyone's gonna overanalyze like how I did this, and then I have to like turn off the camera and just design it like in peace, and then I just sometimes I just feel like it takes the fun out of it.
I feel that. A lot of times when I do like the reels design stuff, it's like it's all fake. Like I'm reverse engineering the process because I don't want to. I design better without the camera and without the process. It feels like there's actually someone watching me do it, you know, or whatever.
Yeah, but, I get so anxious.
I think it takes the fun out of it if you only care about that. Like I like that stuff, and I'd be lying if I said like getting a good YouTube video or like a reel that everyone says is cool doesn't make me feel good. That's just human nature and like dopamine or whatever. But I also feel good just making something cool and posting it regardless of people like it or not. Because the stuff that does the best on social media, in my opinion, isn't always the best design work. So you can't be fulfilled by the external stuff only, because everyone just likes the shit that's like simple and they can like share and be like, yeah, that's cool, I like that too. But some super cool design stuff doesn't even do well because it's maybe it's more like you have to think about it or like look at it longer, and people are like, we're all kind of dumb now, you know, and we just like scroll through everything really fast, so you need something to like stop them. But I do agree that I think sometimes it takes the fun out of it, and when I start to feel that way, I just like cool off on that little aspect of it, like the process design stuff, and then I just try to like do stuff for fun or do more like analog stuff like collage and stuff away from the computer.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I've been trying to do like painting and stuff, but it's just like very frustrating when you're just like not good at it, and it's just like you're starting from scratch, and it's like you don't get the same, I guess, feeling of accomplishment sometimes if you're just like not as good as a hobby. So sometimes I'm like, oh, I should just go back to the computer.
Right. I feel too like the better I get at design or like type and stuff, and that's the stuff that people think that I do well. When I do other stuff, I think like I'm not allowed to be bad at it or something because I'm already like, people expect it or something, even though no one cares about it besides you, really, at the end of the day.
It's such a toxic feeling. Yeah.
So. I that there's a good level of that though, you know, to keep you kind of keep you I guess like driven in a way. You need a little bit of like doubt, so you're like prove yourself wrong type of feeling or whatever.
It's good to like paint because it really just humbles me sometimes. I'm just like, wow, I'm really bad at this. So it's like refreshing sometimes, where it's just like, this is really hard, I'm really struggling, and you're just in that learning process of doing something new.
Do you with the stuff that you've done, like with the reels, like I know you had that one just blow up like crazy, the where you're designing the poster in your house or whatever. When that kind of happened, is that what you thought, like, oh, maybe I should actually do some of this stuff more often?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I had no idea it would blow up the way it did. I was just like, oh, I just like that. One day I was like, yeah, I have no art on my walls and I'm a graphic designer. I feel like I should probably make some, I guess. And I guess people really resonated with that. And it gave me a really cool feeling. I was like, wow, that's awesome. People like my work. And I guess every time I make a reel, I'm just like trying to continue that feeling, I guess, which is, you know, I guess in some ways a little bit shallow, because it's like, yeah, ideally you're creating just because you want to create, but it's also like, I guess being, I hate the word content creator, but like being that now, it's just like another way to keep getting opportunities, and like it's
right.
part of your livelihood now. So it's just like, that's the way people contact me through Instagram and stuff. So it's just like, I feel a little bit more pressure now to like create things that make people want to work with me.
Right. That's like what I was kind of getting at when I said like I don't think you have to do this content shit if you're like already working on all these dope ass projects and you're like one of those more like mysterious designers who just pops in and is like, oh, I did this for like this big ass person. That's dope. And like, I respect that side of things, but I'm not the best designer out there, and I'm not like working on those projects right this minute. So why would I not like, it's, you're doing yourself a disservice not to try out all the different things that are possible, I think.
Yeah. And I think that is ultimately like my goal, being one of those mysterious designers who just comes out with like, yeah, I worked on this project, and then you just disappear, and then you come out with the next project again. That's like the dream. But right now it's fun. Like, I do feel pressure to make content, and sometimes I get kind of bummed out by that. But like at the same time, it's really rewarding when like people are like, you inspired me to make something similar, or like you got me into like design. Like that's a really cool feeling too. And just being able to connect with people that you don't know.
Yeah, I feel like those people know I'm feeling like shit or something, because I always get those messages when I'm like, I don't even want to do this shit anymore, you know? And then they're like, thank you, I'm going to school or whatever, and you helped me with this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. But I found that even if I don't necessarily like the like short form content stuff, like I get a lot more fulfillment out of like YouTube and this than like reels and stuff, because it feels like it matters. People are choosing to go like watch it. It's not something that just popped up in their face and they were like fed. But the other stuff I've noticed, like, you know, everyone complains about the algorithms and like the reach through like static posts, how it's poor compared to like video. And it's just like, it's so obvious, because I could create like something super cool and sometimes it blows up. But when I create a reel, I start to see people liking it that never interact with my stuff. And I'm like, oh shit, it's only showing them these, I think, because I haven't seen them in like a year, you know, like their little name pop up or whatever. So I think it's just something that, even if the actual thing isn't fulfilling, I look at it as like a tool that, like you were saying, can help maybe bring future cool stuff that you actually want to like really do. Yeah,
exactly. So, it's good that I learned to adapt, I guess, to the changing algorithm, because I remember when like everyone was freaking out when they were like, Instagram's no longer like just for pictures, it's going to be primarily like video platform, and everyone was like, what the fuck am I going to do now? And I was in that boat too, but I don't know, I practiced making a reel or two, and then I was like, it's not as bad as I thought it would be.
I think a lot of people too, like they say, I don't want to have to make reels, and I always tell them like, you have to be okay with whatever happens otherwise though. Like no one's gonna make you. But some people do well with just static stuff, and sometimes I do, but I found the average with the video stuff is a lot higher. Did that one like big one that blew up get you any like clients, or did you sell a lot of prints from that or anything like that?
I don't know if it got me any like clients. I sold a couple prints. I think I just do not have a good understanding of how to run a print shop, because I really didn't want to print out everything and fulfill everything myself. So I just did everything on Threadless, because I really like that they like handle the shipping for you and everything, but they take like half of your profits. So it's like a little bit rough, and it's just like, oh, I do want to get into designing my own like print store and having that up and running. But the idea of like, it's annoying, rolling everything up and like mailing everything is just like, I can't do it.
When I try to think about, because when I'm doing it is like, I just think about all the money they're not taking from me, you know, because the margins are a lot better. And I found it kind of is a little bit more sentimental or something, you know, or like intimate, where I'll sign it, and sometimes I'll write a note or whatever, unless I have a lot to fulfill. And it feels cooler to see like, I sent you this from my house with the happy face sticker on it, rather than like some company in another state, I've never even seen it, and you get it. But that's also like me probably just romanticizing it because it's annoying to do, you know?
Yeah, so I don't know. It's definitely something I want to pursue, but it's also just like, I guess at the moment I love working on branding projects and like allocating time towards just like other things. So maybe one day. But same with YouTube. Like I think YouTube would be a really cool thing, but I'm also like fairly introverted and very camera shy. So I don't know if I'd want to get into that either.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I was, or I am still, like, I get like, sometimes I just like black out and I'll record like an hour video, you know? And I'm like, fuck it. Hopefully it's cool. Or I think it gets easier when people say it's cool because it gives you like confidence and you're like, oh, hell yeah.
The validation.
When I first started, like, it took me like, you know, a year just to get like 500 subs or whatever. And I've noticed like, it's exponential. Like then the next like 6 months was already to like 1,000 or 5,000 or whatever. And it goes like that. So when you get people telling you like they like this or this made them happy or they were stoked on this, it's like we were saying where it's a lot easier to like, maybe it's selfish or whatever, but it's like motivating, I guess. Cause you don't want, if someone says like, oh, I was waiting to watch this when you said you were going to put it out, it's better than putting it out and like 8 people watch it and you're just like, fuck, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
Have you, like, what was I going to ask you? One of the last things I actually wanted to ask you, because I was reading this on your About page, I think you taught a class, right? You said?
Oh, yeah.
Like a branding thing. Do you currently do that, or was that a past thing?
Oh, no, I only did that when I was a student. It was the same branding class that I took that got me into branding. And so my friend taught it and then she graduated and then I basically kind of took over her position. And it was really cool to like come up with lesson plans because we kind of like realized at the time, like the branding decal didn't actually have branding in itself. And so like me and the next kind of cohort of students that took over it decided to like brand it and give it a logo and like have a color palette and type and everything. And then we kind of like completely reformatted all of the lesson plans as well. So we were completely starting from scratch. And it's just like, I think being a teacher for like those 3 semesters or so was just like really rewarding because you get to see all these people and like you get to share your passion of branding with them. And you get to see them learn like the stuff that you learned that turned you on to design in the first place. And like, I think teaching just makes you learn a lot yourself.
Yeah. Is that something you think you want to pursue it anymore in the future?
Yeah. If someone wants me to teach, then yeah, I'd love to teach. But yeah, I think we're all just works in progress. Like, I think I have a lot of learning and growing to do in terms of like public speaking and like making sure I'm eloquent enough and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I think it was a really fun experience. So I'd love to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. And I found that in my own experience, learning from other people and in a sense, teaching with some of the stuff I do, that sometimes being closer to the point of the student is more helpful because you're not as far away from them in experience or in style or like knowing what's going on. Like I know a lot more about what's going on in the design world than like my professor that was like 50. You know what I mean?
That's true. Yeah.
He may know more about like the history of like fonts and all this shit, but like he doesn't know anything about social media. So it's kind of like, I think it helps to be like still grounded in like the current, you know, younger people environment or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, definitely. And just learning and like just being dialed into like all the graphic design and brand trends that are coming out every day. It's just like completely different landscape between now and like 30 years ago. So
for sure. Well, shit. If you do end up doing any teaching stuff, that would be cool. And I'm stoked to see what else you do with all the stuff on Instagram and your branding stuff. And thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and everyone, you can check out Katrina on Instagram, EdgyKatrina, and her website, Katrina Romulo. And thank you, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.
Thank you.